Hey everybody, welcome in. I'm Adam Hildebrandt. Super happy to be joined today by new Cowboy head football coach Eric Morris. And we're just going to take a little time, get to know him a little bit off of the football field and see how he's transitioning to Stillwater. So Coach, first of all, thanks so much for spending some time with us today. I saw a comment from you about how you were kind of living like a college kid again for a while during that transition phase. You had the air mattress out as you were kind of getting things back up and running here in Stillwater. What has that time been like for you? I understand your family's here now, but what was that transition like?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a college football coach, you get used to these transitions. And I think the one thing that's been hardest on me is just the age that my kids are right now and being away from my wife and my kids. Jack's 10, George is 5. And so just watching them grow up and play sports and everything they're involved in right now, being away from them 3 or 4 months is never an easy thing. And so luckily we have FaceTime nowadays and keep up a little bit. But, I think just being ready for anything and on the move. I was sleeping in so many different places, whether it was a hotel, on the road recruiting. I had an Airbnb here in town for a month, and then finally we were able to move into our new house and live there for a month with no furniture. Like you said, I went and bought a mattress at Mattress Firm here in town and took some towels from our office home so I could shower. But really during these times, I'm spending so much time at the office, hiring a new staff. Obviously, we brought in a ton of new players this year, and so my hours are pretty long during the course of the first 3 or 4 months, and so really you're just going home to sleep and get up and do it all over again. But transition is starting to slow down right now. My family's here. My kids are in their 3rd week of Sanger Ridge Elementary. The people have been so gracious here, and it's made the transition a lot easier on my wife and my kids, just with how nice everybody's been and helping out with all the day-to-day functions.
Yeah, I know one thing you mentioned you wanted to do was kind of get out and build a genuine connection with the community. There's been a lot going on, obviously. Have you been able to get out much and experience Stillwater?
Yeah, we've been able to do a ton, and really I think going to all the supporting events has helped us and our family just get involved in seeing people. And so going to basketball games has been awesome for us. These wrestling duels have been phenomenal. I wasn't familiar with wrestling before I got here, and I'm one of the biggest fans, and I've been to 3 of them. Going to baseball this last weekend, going to softball here coming up, and then just going out and being at Sprouts and grocery shopping, going to Walmart to grab a couple things. I think it's caught people by surprise. I work out at F45 on campus with college students right now, and so I get a lot of head turns when I walk in there to get an afternoon workout in. And so, but that's just me. That's my personality. I'm not a guy that likes to hide in behind what I do. And when I am out and about, I love taking pictures and hearing people's stories and what this place means to them. And so it's been a lot of fun just to kind of meet a lot of new folks and hear why this place is so special to them.
Those I've done some of those F45 workouts. Those are not to be messed around with. They get pretty serious in those. You're from Shallow Texas. How is Stillwater maybe similar to your hometown?
Shallow Water's a lot smaller, 2,000 people in the town I grew up in, no red lights. We have a convenience store in town. That's the only thing that we have. And so, I think just when you've come from a small town and the culture, I think just people are willing to do whatever to help each other out. And I think that's one thing we've seen firsthand. We've had so many people reach out and we've met so many new people and they've offered their help and their advice to help us, kind of ease the transition for, my wife, for my kids, whether that's getting, a number for a handyman or a plumber or we're trying to figure out, who's going to help us with landscaping in our new house. I mean, everybody's just kind of been here to help in so many different ways. And so that part of it's been awesome. Not having traffic every morning, not getting on an interstate is something that's been awesome for us. And it's about a 10-minute drive for me. I get to stop by Starbucks on the way in to work every single morning. And so yeah, obviously we have a big challenge ahead of us. I have a big task to be able to get this program turned back around and get us back into our winning ways. And that's going to take a lot of time and effort. But I think, it makes me feel a lot better when I feel like I have so many supporting cast around me and so many people pulling in the same direction, willing to help out.
You said you go to Starbucks, coming into work every day. What's the go-to order?
Super boring, a venti pike every day, nothing in it, That's it. So those two words, a large black coffee.
I know when we went through your introductory press conference, Chad Weiberg talked about wanting the right fit. And fit is a two-way street. You guys were probably looking for the same thing. So why was Oklahoma State a fit for you and your family?
Yeah, I think it was a unique experience for us to be able to raise our kids in a small community while also doing what I love and playing football at the highest level, at the P4 level right now. And I don't think you get that very many places. And so, those were kind of the big draws for us. And as we kind of got into the interview process this year and we were able to sit down with a number of different universities. We just kept coming back. This is a place we wanted our kids to be raised, and these were people we wanted to join forces with, and this was a way of life that we thought was going to be really positive in so many different aspects. And so yeah, I mean, a bunch of people have called some of these things negative in the small town and not having resources and all those things, and just I thought all those things were a positive for my family and I at this time.
One of the kind of tenets that we live by here is rising to meet every challenge. And while I know there's been a lot of excitement, I'm sure there have been challenges. You mentioned, being away from your kids for a little while. How have you and your wife, Maggie, kind of teamworked that transition and risen to that challenge over the last few months?
To be honest with you, I mean, she's a single parent at times. And, I think going through these different transitions, we've been married for a little over 15 years right now, and I think we've lived in 8 different homes during the course of that 15 years. And so she knew what she was getting into when we got married, and she knew what the coach's wife, what it looked like at times, and that there's going to be times we're going to have to pick up and move our kids. And I think it's made our kids be really resilient and tough and being able to adapt to any situation. And so I think this is no different than any of those. But I think as you continue to move up the ranks, I think the one thing that's new for my kids and my wife is just that, I think the notoriety that I get around town and everybody knows who I am and wants to say hello and take a picture and which is awesome. But I think that's something that's new. When we were in Denton, it wasn't that way. We could go eat somewhere and nobody really bothered us. Not that people are bothering us here, but nobody recognized me, I should say. But I think that that's something that she's come to grips with and excited about this new challenge that we have.
I know for me, I enjoy achieving goals and taking next steps. I enjoy those even more when I get to do that with my wife, Carissa, at the same time. Have you and Maggie had a chance to kind of step back and say, man, look at what we've accomplished together and where we've ended up 15 years later?
Not yet. I tell you, I mean, they've been here for 3 weekends, and every weekend, we've traveled for our son's 7-on-7 tournaments. And so we went to Springfield, Missouri the first weekend. Last weekend we're in Tulsa and Kansas City this weekend. And so it's been so fast just because our kids are so active right now. We are going to get a chance here in a couple weeks, spring break. Wife and kids, we're all going to go to Hawaii for 5 or 6 days. And so I think that'll be the first chance that we can kind of step away from what's going on in Stillwater, what's been going on with football, just because it was so fast. We're in the conference championship game, at the 1st of December. The very next day I got on a plane to come to Stillwater and had our press conference here. And life has not been normal since that day, trying to put the staff together, trying to put together our roster, and now trying to implement our culture each and every day here with our kids on campus. So yeah, here in a couple of weeks, I think we'll be able to sit back a little bit, watch the waves roll in on the North Shore and reflect a little bit.
One thing that I've really enjoyed about working here at my alma mater is getting to watch my kids experience things here, whether it be with athletics or with the university side of things. You got to be with your kids when they walked out into the stadium, and you've seen them grow up with you as a football coach. What's that been like to experience your kids getting to be so closely involved with college football, something you're so passionate about?
Yeah, a lot of unique experiences, especially for my oldest son. I think last summer, you got to go and snap for Patrick Mahomes in town in Denton when he was throwing to the Chiefs. A couple months later, he got to go sit with Cam Ward as the #1 pick in the draft. But I think the experiences that this created and the relationships that my kids have been able to build with these guys has been an awesome experience for them and something that they'll remember for the rest of their lives. And so obviously at their ages right now, 10 and 5, they're infatuated with obviously the size of the stadium. They're infatuated with, Bullet running across the field after we score a touchdown and all the unique traditions that Oklahoma State has here. And so yeah, I mean, I think it's been cool, but at the same time, to think back 5 years ago, I was the head coach at University of Incarnate Word at a really small stadium, and they still have great relationships that they built at that school. So trying to keep them humble and that this has been a process, and that hard work and determination has allowed us to be successful and continue to move up the ranks a little bit is something that's important to my wife and I.
Do they both love football the way that you do?
My oldest definitely does right now. He's kind of finally caught the bug this last year and a half. He's infatuated with it. It's all we do at the house. He's finally getting into where he wants to talk about schemes and learn about why people do certain things at certain positions. He's played in NCAA football and Madden and asking me about strategies to take when calling plays. And so my 5-year-old's not there yet. He loves the thought of it. He loves the production. He loves game day. He loves, to have that winning feeling and everybody celebrating after a game. But I don't think he quite grasps what goes into it on a day-to-day process yet.
Your dad was a high school coach. What did you take from him? What coaching traits do you see from him?
Yeah, my dad was really militant back in the day. He was really hard on me and my brother. So I think, just that accountability, the discipline of getting up and doing it every day. And I also think he taught us how to fail, and that, failing was okay as long as you get back up and you learn something and you have a growth mindset to anything. And I think those are valuable lessons that I've carried with me, in every coaching stop and the journey that I've had so far. And I'm not afraid to step out there, and I'm not afraid to make mistakes. And I think making mistakes allows you to grow and learn new things as long as you're not continually making the same mistake. And I think the landscape of college sports has changed so drastically the last 10 years. I think that's, to my advantage as being a young guy is right now, I think there's so many unique ways to build these rosters, and I'm putting in the time and effort with the rest of our staff to learn how to best suit, to put that together here at Oklahoma State.
I know compete is a term I've heard you use a lot, so it's obviously important to you. Rewind to when you were a kiddo. Where did that competitive edge start to develop?
I don't know. I've always just loved to prove people wrong. I was a little guy my whole entire life. And so I think, my parents would probably say that I have little man syndrome, and always just wanted to prove people wrong from a young age. And no matter what sport it was, right? Football, basketball, baseball. Still this day, we have a ping pong table here in the office here. I dominate the ping pong table pretty much every day when I play on it. And so I think I've always just been wired that way. And I've always had a chip on my shoulder. And so that's something I think that'll never change about me. And so if I ever get to the point where I don't love competing and getting a team ready to go out there and perform at the highest level, each and every time we step on the field together, I'm going to find a new profession.
Your degree is in communications, which is close to my heart. Everything you do, football, home-wise, there's got to be communication wrapped up into that. So how did that degree kind of help prepare you for what you're doing now?
Yeah, I think, when I first changed to communications, I didn't know which route I was going to go down at that time in my career. I thought a little bit about, going to the oil and gas field just because I had so many, buddies that were doing it out in West Texas. Thought about some real estate things because I had some family ties that had some success in real estate. And so, within all these realms that I thought I might possibly do, I thought communication was something that was going to be a general thing that I needed to be good at in all three of those realms. And so, once I decided to go down the coaching route, I think for me to really draw back on my mentors and the different styles of communication they all had, obviously Mike Leach was so unique in the way he communicated, to the media, and then in the team room, I thought Mike was phenomenal and really getting the most out of each and every player. And sometimes that communication styles different to different individuals, and you have to spend time to really figure out what motivates different players. And so that's there's some psychology behind some of this stuff and the way you do motivate players this day and age. And so something that still really intrigues me and I read about a ton right now is just different communication styles, different leadership styles, and different ways to motivate, 18 to 24-year-old kids.
Yeah, and you hit on something in there that really intrigues me. You mentioned it's going to be different for every person, because I think a lot of times people hear communication and they think outward. How much of that for you is inward and listening to your players, your 5 and your 10-year-old, your wife, and trying to understand what they're feeding back to you?
Yeah, I've always believed that I'm a great listener and a great observer at that, and really being able to read body language and intentions of kids. And I think anytime you're responsible for as many people as I'm responsible for on a day-to-day basis, I think observing and learning and listening and then being able to take all that information in, and you got to make a decision for the betterment of the whole entire organization, not just one individual. And sometimes that makes some individuals unhappy, and you're not going to make everybody happy from the position I'm in right now. But at the end of the day, this program is way bigger than myself, way bigger than any player or coach that's over there helping me get this thing turned around right now. And I think that we have to remember that at the end of the day. And so, but yes, I think listening is one of the greatest tools that I have.
You mentioned Coach Leach. Something that always intrigued me about him is how he could have conversations about seemingly anything. And there's the fun ones like the mascot conversation, things like that. But he was a professor teaching a class at one point on war history and tactics and things like that. So is there anything like that that's away from football that kind of consumes you in that way?
When I get away from football, I love to be outside, so I'm more of an outdoorsman. And so I love to hunt, I love to fish, I love to grill, I love to cook for my players, for my kids, for my family. And so I like to relax a little bit more. And so anytime I'm getting a chance to step away from football, it's either me, trying to wet a hook and get out and catch some bass or some crappie and bring them back to cook for the family, go out hunting, enjoy the outdoors, or find a new recipe to put on the barbecue pit.
Well, let's pretend that you have an off Saturday at some point and it's 80 degrees out and the grill is going. What's your choice? What's going on there?
Yeah, being from Texas, I love to do brisket. It takes time, and so you probably need a Saturday and a Sunday to be able to prepare it the right way. But if I don't have as much time, I love to do some baby back ribs as well.
I could go for either of those right now. I think that's pretty much all I had for you, Coach. I really appreciate the time. It's good to get to know you a little bit, and we're looking forward to seeing how things go with spring ball. And then, of course, September's going to be here before we know it. So,
appreciate you guys having me.
That's Eric Morris. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.